The Dungeon in the Hills, the Lake and Ung story. The rolling hills of Calaveras County concealed their secrets well. Nestled among the pines and dappled sunlight, the cabin seemed unremarkable to passing hikers. Just another rural retreat where someone had come to escape the pressures of modern life. In 1985, no one could have imagined that this picturesque setting harbored what investigators would later call a dungeon of terror. Leonard Lake had always been drawn to isolation. Born in San Francisco in 1945, his childhood had shown troubling signs that most had dismissed or overlooked. As an adult, Lake became increasingly fixated on survivalism. Convinced that society's collapse was imminent, he prepared meticulously for this eventuality, but his preparations went far beyond stockpiling supplies. Lake had developed elaborate fantasies he called Operation Miranda, a scenario in which women would be captured and kept as slaves in his post-apocalyptic kingdom. These might have remained mere dark fantasies, if not for a fateful meeting in 1981. Charles Ung was born in Hong Kong in 1960, his early life marked by trouble. After being sent to boarding school in England following legal problems at home, Ung made his way to the United States and briefly joined the Marines before being discharged for stealing weapons. Restless and without direction, Ung drifted until he crossed paths with Leonard Lake. In Lake, Ung found someone whose darkest impulses mirrored his own. In Ung, Lake found the willing accomplice he needed to transform fantasy into horrifying reality. Together, they converted a bunker on Lake's remote property into something unimaginable, a place designed not just for survival, but for torture. They installed video equipment, restraints, and a collection of implements that spoke to their shared depravity. What happened in that bunker over the next few years would shock even hardened investigators. The two men began abducting women, couples, and sometimes entire families. Their victims included neighbors, acquaintances, and strangers who had the misfortune of crossing their path. Inside the bunker, victims were subjected to prolonged torture and sexual assault, with Lake and Ung filming their crimes in disturbing detail. The tapes showed them forcing victims to participate in scripted scenarios, performing for the camera in a grotesque theater of cruelty. After they had finished with their victims, Lake and Ung would kill them and dispose of the bodies on the property, keeping personal items as trophies. The exact number of their victims remains unknown, but investigators believe they may have murdered up to 25 people, men, women, and even children. Their reign of terror might have continued indefinitely, if not for a seemingly minor incident. In June 1985, Charles Ung was caught shoplifting at a hardware store in South San Francisco. While Ung managed to flee, Lake, who had been waiting in the car, was apprehended. When police checked the ID he provided, they quickly discovered it belonged to a missing person. The car itself was registered to Paul Cosner, another missing man. As suspicions mounted, Lake realized the game was up. He asked for a glass of water and a pen and paper. After writing a brief note, he swallowed a cyanide pill he had hidden on his person and fell into a coma. 4 days later, he died in custody, taking many of his secrets with him. Charles Ung had fled to Canada, where he was eventually caught shoplifting in Calgary. What followed was a protracted legal battle over his extradition that lasted 6 years. When he finally stood trial in California, it became one of the most expensive proceedings in the state's history, costing over $20 million. The prosecution presented damning evidence, including the recovered videotapes showing Ung's willing participation in the torture of their victims. Though his defense team argued that he had been under Lake's influence, the jury was unconvinced. In February 1999, after years of legal maneuvering, Charles Ung was convicted of 11 counts of murder and sentenced to death. He remains on death row at San Quentin State Prison today. The remote cabin in Calaveras County has long since been demolished, the forest slowly reclaiming the land where so much suffering occurred. But for those connected to the case, the investigators who processed the scene, the families who lost loved ones, and those who study criminal psychology, the partnership of Lake and Ung remains a disturbing reminder of what can happen when two predatory minds find each other and amplify each other's darkest impulses. The videotapes recovered from Lake's property remain sealed from public view, locked away in evidence storage. They serve as a grim archive of cruelty with no purpose beyond documenting the depths of human depravity, a warning of the capacity for evil that can hide in plain sight, even in the most picturesque settings. Behind the beauty of Calaveras County's rolling hills, a dungeon once stood, and though it's gone now, the shadows it cast linger still.